Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. It is a big week. And if it's Tuesday, that can mean only one thing. Duane Long is here. Duane, how goes it?
That's game week, and we're in the playoff, and we're playing football, so I'm in a good mood.
We are playing football. Have we played enough? That's subject for debate. Ha ha. But let's get into it, Duane. This will be your last appearance on the Bucknuts Morning 5 before Friday night, 8:15, Sugar Bowl, New Orleans, Ohio State versus Clemson. The line opened at 6.5. William Hill now has it as Clemson as a 7.5 point favorite. It's a rematch of last year's semifinal. It's a rematch of Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields. It's a rematch of Ryan Day versus Dabo Swinney. Who is going to win and why?
Well, I think the Buckeyes can win this game, Dan. I think it really comes back to one very important thing. The difference in this game is going to be how well we run the football. Not just to keep the defense from attacking Fields, just relentlessly, just pinning back their ears and going after Fields. Really, more important is we need to keep this secondary off the field. Notice I didn't say defense. I said secondary. We went into the season worried about the secondary. What we have seen is we were right to be concerned about the secondary. The number of mistakes, blown coverages, just how many times have you watched a play and said, what were you thinking? What were you doing? I don't know. These guys have not played a lot, most of them, and it's showing. They haven't played as a unit, that's for sure. And just mental errors. I look back in particular to the Indiana game and the number of just guys, I'm okay with if you get beat, you get beat. Everybody gets beat. But just why did you do what you did? They just don't seem to be on the same page. We need them on the sideline on one side. We need Trevor Lawrence on the sideline on the other side. And that's where the running game can be so effective. Shorten the game, eat up clock, score points, and keep Trevor Lawrence from hurting us. I mean, I don't know about you, Dan, but I can't remember the last time we've seen a quarterback on the other side of the line as good as Trevor Lawrence. He is exceptional. He's a special talent, and we need him on the sideline. Last year's secondary was infinitely better, and he hurt us. Well, I don't want him on the field against this one. That is going to be the key. Trevor Lawrence sitting on the other sideline. I think that's what wins us the game. I don't see any reason why we cannot run the ball like we did. We don't even need to run it if we run it half as good against Clemson as we did against Northwestern. I think we'll win a football game. We don't need we would be better off running it half as good because then we're eating more time. We're taking more time off the clock. You want to see 10, 12 play drives in this game for the Buckeyes. Just run right at them, keep that clock running. I think we win a low-scoring game. I'd say 25-20 is something I could see this game playing out. That's low scoring for this season, at least. We got to run the ball, Dan. We have to run the ball. We can't see what we saw before Northwestern. Maybe that was just simply a change of going with Sermon. But if you watch that game again, the offensive line dominated the number 6 run defense in the country. And I know people say, well, look who they played. Okay, yeah, but they were still the number 6 run defense in the country. And we absolutely destroyed them up front. I don't know what changed. The only thing that seemed obvious was Sermon, but we ran the ball so well, and that's going to be determination. That's going to determine this game. Also think turnover margin. If we win the turnover margin, I really like our chances.
Lawrence is a spectacular player. I'm not going to say I was a doubter, but I think I was a tad hesitant to anoint him heading into last year's matchup. And I was just very impressed with, one, how he ran the ball, and two, he's a very tough dude. Ohio State put some serious licks on him, a couple famous ones, and he got up and performed. I do think Ohio State's physicality last year caught Clemson a little bit off guard, and though they know it's coming this year, they haven't played a team as physically talented as Ohio State, so I think that's an advantage, especially on the offensive line. As you look at the rest of the squad, where is your greatest concern aside from matching up with the guy who's pretty much locked in to be the number one quarterback in Trevor Lawrence?
Really? Game time, Dan. We have not played a lot of football recently. How sharp can we be? That really concerns me. That you got to be on the field. The whole point in practice every day is to stay sharp, and we can't practice. We're not playing games. I really wonder how good can we be with this little bit of game time, this little bit of practice. I'm very concerned about that.
It's a justifiable concern. I've had a couple people reach out to me and say that. I tend to be on the side where I like fresh legs and lack of injuries, but I'll say this, and this is maybe a silver lining. Ohio State has had such indecision surrounding their games this year, be it from a personnel or COVID-y standpoint, or even if the game was even going to take place. They know they're going to the Sugar Bowl. They know who they're going to be playing. They know they're going to be at full strength. In parentheses, I hope they know that. So I do think their frame of mind heading into this game is going to be the best it's been. I think physically they'll be at their best. Duane, you said 25-20. Is that your pick?
That's what I'm rolling with right now. Yeah, I think we'll score some points. I mean, we scored points on them last year. There's no reason to think we're not going to score points on this defense too. But I really believe that we want to keep the ball on the ground as much as possible, and it's going to be key to winning this football game.
We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk a little recruiting. All right, Duane. We are going to be joined in just a few minutes by Blair Angulo and Brandon Huffman. Brandon Huffman is 24/7 Sports West Coast correspondent. He is the number one guy on the JT Tuimoloau recruitment, and he's going to break down the fact that it's become a two-team race and give you some details on that. But first, ask you to look at a couple defensive linemen Ohio State is looking hard at. Joshua White, a 2022 out of Georgia, and Kenyatta Jackson, another 2022 out of Hollywood, Florida. Kenyatta Jackson had a crystal ball thrown his way. Joshua White was up here around Nebraska time, and Bill Kurlick just did a story on him. The interest is there. Tell us what you think of Joshua White and Kenyatta Jackson.
Well, what stands out to me is a pair of bookends. I absolutely see Kenyatta Jackson is just so dynamic, so explosive, so athletic. You just put him on the weak side and let him rush. He's outstanding. The other kid is just he's so strong. And another thing I like about Jackson is Jackson's playing with his hand in the dirt already. White is playing as a stand-up end a lot of times. Now, when he does have a blocker in front of him, he seems to handle it pretty damn well. But still, every down, I'd like to see him with his hand in the dirt, coming out of a stance and taking on a blocker. But the kid's outstanding football player. If I had to pick one, it would be Jackson. He's just got all the tools. I mean, when he comes off, bang, he's top speed, first step, uses his hands well, finds the ball well. He's another level.
Jackson's kind of your classic old school defensive end, 6'5" or 6'4.5", 6'5" right now, probably around 220 pounds. So you can see the frame, given the fact he's got a couple years. All right, we're going to get into JT Tuimoloau right now with Brandon Huffman and Blair Angulo. We appreciate Duane taking the time out of his busy day to join us. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
What is the latest on JT Tuimoloau?
So with JT, he announced his top 5 on the first day of the early signing period. And by top 5, I mean it was this final 5, a final 5 that includes Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, USC, and then hometown Washington. And each of those 5 schools have a reason to think that, they could get him. But realistically, this is a 2-horse race, and it's not Pac-12 friendly. It's Alabama or it's Ohio State. I won't completely count out the 3 Pac-12 schools because you just never know with the West Coast kids. Sometimes maybe they do decide they want to stay home. But really, this is a matter of Alabama and Ohio State. Oregon is still involved. USC is still involved. Washington's still involved, but not to the level that the Tide and the Buckeyes have. And obviously, both those schools have had a great recent track record of developing elite pass rushers, elite defensive prospects. Both have great coaches, either at the head coaching position in Nick Saban at Alabama or Larry Johnson as the defensive line coach. So this is a matter of Alabama, Ohio State. They're the top 2 recruiting classes in the 2021 class on 24/7 Sports. And one of them is going to end up with the biggest prize of all, the number 1 player in the 24/7 rankings in JT.
When you look at Ohio State, what appeals to him the most? What makes him – or what gives you the confidence that that's still maybe where he's leaning, even if it's very slightly?
Well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, you look at Larry Johnson's track record when he was at Penn State with Tom Bahali, with Courtney Brown, and then when he got to Ohio State with Nick and Joey Bosa, with Chase Young most recently. And you look at the players that he's developed and the players that he's coached at Ohio State. You also look at his teammate at Eastside Catholic, G. Scott Jr. You've got Emeka Egbuka, who signed with the Buckeyes this year. And Emeka, one of the last things he said when he committed was, me and G are going to get JT to Ohio State. And that was one of the first times in recent weeks where I started to think, hey, Ohio State's regaining the momentum because Alabama had made such a huge run, and largely because of Nick Saban. This is one of those weird recruitments where the primary coach recruiting JT is the offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, who's got ties to the Northwest from the 5 years he was the head coach at Washington. But really, Nick Saban has been the one primarily recruiting JT for the last couple months. So, when you put Nick Saban against just about anybody, that usually portends to be in the favor of Alabama. But Ohio State does have things working in their favor with Larry Johnson's track record of pass rushers from Penn State at Ohio State. And now you throw in a couple familiar faces at Ohio State with Emeka Egbuka and his former Eastside Catholic teammate G. Scott Jr., and the Buckeyes have reason to believe. The one thing that Ohio State doesn't have going for them, that's the only school in his Final 5 he has not visited. He visited Alabama going into his sophomore year when he camped down there, sat in Nick Saban's office, and was offered by Saban during that camp. Ohio State's the only school he's yet to see of his Final 5.